This conference will now be recorded.
So in our previous class, we were working with creating one sample web application. So in that process, we have created few rules. We have created a few property rules. This will be under data model. And we have created one section rule to include all those properties. And we have created one flow action rule in order to include that particular section. So flow action rule purpose is to hold the section. So for that, we have created one flow action, and finally we have created one flow rule. So flow rule is responsible for loading all these rules now, and it will be responsible for creating the work object also. So this is what we have seen. And in order to run the flow, what we'll be doing usually, so go to that particular flow rule. Under actions, we have to run this. So this will be responsible for loading all other rules. So before that, yesterday we thought of discussing something about this error message and this process tab. Okay. So in the production, let me show you the error, what it is showing here. So if I just click on the error, it is saying something like this flow is in draft mode, and in the production it will not be executed. So this is the error message we are getting. So in the real time, if we are trying to execute the flow, so if we want to run our work object, this is the only option. We have to run the flow. And if we are trying to run this flow with this kind of error, the error, did you understand the error? The flow is in draft mode, meaning it is still in the development phase. So some of the developers are still working on this. So they have not finalized this flow to be executed completely. So that will be identified by PRPC because of this option. So if the draft is on, if it is showing like red color, meaning this particular flow is still in the development phase. So there are still some changes being happening. So if everyone feel that particular work has been completed on this flow, we have to click on this. Then draft mode will be off, so we can able to see this gray color option. No, so now if you save this error message should be gone. So this is very important. Now we are not finding any of the error message. No, so there will be few interview questions on this draft mode also. So this is the importance. In the production, we cannot able to make this particular flow to be executed successfully if this is in the draft mode. And once this flow has been implemented successfully, and if it is went for the production, and now if we want to make any kind of changes as a developer, we can able to make any kind of changes. No, and if we want to make some changes on that, first what we have to do, you should not be directly making any kind of changes like this. First thing, we have to make this draft mode on. We have to click this. Okay, then it should be red color. What are all the changes you want to make? That has to be implemented now. So first you have to make the draft mode on, and you have to make the necessary changes. Then you have to make the draft mode off. Then only you have to save this. So then only what are all the changes you are doing will be completely successfully reflected in the production. So that's the importance of this draft mode. Okay, now draft mode is on. Now if I made some changes and trying to click on save, we should be getting some error message. Okay, so this error message will be reported under your name, whoever is creating this, and based on this, one complaint score will be decided. That is what we have already discussed. So complaint score will be reduced. So as an for your operator ID, there will be some reduction in the complaint score. So there will be projects where the operators will be having 0% complaint score also. So they have to provide many justifications for each and every rule. So let's not make that mistake. You remember this, whenever we are trying to make any modifications for the flow rule, first make sure we have to make this draft mode on. Then you have to make the necessary changes. So once you are done with these changes, you have to click on this draft mode. It will be turned to gray color. Then you have to save this. Okay, you understood the importance of this draft mode now. Now we have made few other changes in this process tab. Now if I want to make any of the changes, first thing what I have to do, I have to make this draft mode on. Now let us discuss why we have marked this checkbox yesterday, and I have made some changes to this work parties. Only these two changes I have made yesterday. So these checkboxes, these are already there. Let's not discuss about that now. We have made this one and as well as this one. work parties. So the importance of this checkbox is, if we mark this checked, then this particular flow is responsible for creating work object. So we have already discussed that flow is meant for creating work object and for loading all the necessary rules linked to that. So if I'm running this particular transaction without the work object ID, that is not possible. PRPC will not allow. Not only PRPC, any of the concrete classes. Concrete class is not only specific to PEGA or Java. I mean PEGA. It is specific to Java. So wherever we are using this Java technology, either in the PEGA or in some other thing, concrete classes should be there will be concrete classes. So for all the concrete classes, we can able to create the work object IDs. So work object ID will be created if we mark this checkbox only. So if I'm unchecking this and clicking on save, before save, we have to make this draft mode off. And now save this. We will not be having run option here. So did you observe? We cannot able to run this flow. So what are all the rules we have linked in here? So I have just linked one flow action rule. So what are all the rules we linked? We cannot able to run this. We cannot able to create the work object ID. So there is no run option at all here. We cannot able to load all the necessary rules. So the importance here is we have to mark this checkbox. So before making any changes, make the draft mode on. So without making this change, I mean without toggling this button also, we can able to make the changes, but that's not the best practice. So that's why I'm stressing it. So you got the importance of this checkbox, no? So so if that is required, if PRPC is recommending us to use this checkbox, why it is giving one option for us? So that is my question. So without the work object ID, we cannot able to run the flow. That you understood, no? Then why PRPC is giving this as like an option? So this should be always kept marked and can be disabled, no? So that will be the next question for you. Okay, why it is giving this kind of option for us? So if we are given any option, it is meant like we can able to toggle this. We can able to check or uncheck. As per previous discussion, marking this as checked is very important, else we cannot able to create the work object ID. Got my question?
Yes. So that means there are flows which do not create any work object.
Yes, there might be any other flows. So this is the one main flow. So this is the one main claims flow. In this claim flow, I can able to have some other flows also. So I can able to call that some other flows, all the rest of the flows into this main flow also, no? So let me tell you one real-time example. Suppose if you want to get some money from ATM, what we'll be doing, we'll be just dipping our card there, and automatically one transaction ID will be created. Okay, so within the transaction, you can able to run multiple flows here, meaning we can able to withdraw the money, we can able to check for the bank statement, we can able to register for the mobile updates, or we can able to register for the credit card or the bank passbook, anything. So these will be all the separate flows within the main flow. Okay, so within the main flow, whenever I insert my credit card, or sorry, ATM card, main transaction ID will be created, and within the transaction ID, I can able to first withdraw the money and end my transaction. So there will be one transaction ID only created, one work object ID only created. And in the next scenario, if I just insert the credit card and withdraw the money, and parallelly after that I'm trying to check for the mini statement, and after that I'm trying to check for the bank passbook. Likewise, I can able to continue with any number of flows at a time within one transaction. I can able to I can able to use n number of flows which are there within that. So for all this whole process, I will be getting only one transaction ID at the last. So finally, you will be getting only one slip. No, you will not be getting 4 or 5 slips for the 5 different flows. Okay, we'll be getting only one transaction ID for the transaction. So within one transaction, we can able to call one flow, or we can able to call multiple flows. I can able to make this as the main flow, or I can able to make this as a subflow as well. So this is the main flow as per our understanding. Now, if I try to create one, what's that, mini statement flow, let us consider. So that flow also will be considered, and I cannot able to get the mini statement flow directly without calling this main ATM card insertion flow. So for that kind of flows, I will not be having this check mark checked now. So if I just want to get the mini statement, I should be running the main flow first, and from that only I have to go to the some other flows. So just launching the some other flows, separate transaction ID or the work object ID should not be created. So there will be flows where those can be reused into the main flow, or I can able to have one main flow with work object ID created. So got my point now? So there will be cases where we can able to reuse, where we can able to call that into the main flow, or we can able to have the flows with some work object IDs. That depends upon the business transaction. So that's why this option will this will be just an optional. Got my point?
Yes, sir.
And Uma, you also clear now? And if we want to create any of if we want to use any of the flow within this main flow, so this is our main flow as per our understanding, and within this we can able to call many other subflows. So for that there will be one shape like sub process. So if we just click on this plus mark, we can able to see all the available shapes here. So this is one assignment shape we have already known, and this is a start and this is the end. So these are all the things we are familiar of. And there will be something like sub process. So this blue color. So if we just click and drag and drop here, it will be coming. And if I want to call any other flow within this main flow, we should be using this sub process shape. Okay, we'll work on this later. So this is just for your understanding. So sub process is a shape where we can able to call one flow within another flow. Okay, so you understood about the concept of we selecting for this. Sometimes you will not be getting, just refresh this. So I want to mark this checkbox. Why? Because I will be considering this as my main flow, and I want to create the work object ID for this. And there will be something like work parties. So yesterday, before we making these changes, it is having like default. I'll show you what's the disadvantage of selecting default. So I'm saving this. Before that, let me make the draft mode off. Draft mode is already off. This is not the best practice actually. So I'm running it now. So we are seeing something like this. We are seeing first name, last name, age, something, and we are seeing participants also. So these are all the things what we have not created. Okay, and we have created one section like this first name, and these are all the properties what we have created, and we have created 5 or 6 properties, but here it is showing only 4 properties, and that too the section what we have created, it is of double grid 2 by 2. Here we are seeing only one in a row. So all the changes what we have done is not reflecting correctly. Okay, this is because of the default screen. So whenever we run the flow, there will be one screen called new harness. I'll explain about this harnesses later. There will be one display screen here. So this is just for the display purpose. Actually this is not recommended, this is not needed for us as of now. So in order to avoid this display harness, this previous screen or the display screen, what we will be doing, we will be going for PY case management default. We'll discuss this more when we are working with case management. So if I just save this and let me run it again. Now did we get that screen? That screen has been bypassed. So that's the importance of this PY case management default. So if you're marking this as default, we will be getting this screen, which is not recommended, which is not necessary for us now. And if we just skip that, in order to skip that, we will be having PY case management default. Now we can able to see the section what we have created. Okay. And there is something like work object ID created. I'll explain that now. Let me open the section. So this is the section what we have created. So this is the design what we have made. So here we have created the properties, and within the properties we have given the controls. And if we just check for the output here, we are also getting some buttons here: cancel, save, and submit. So once you enter the details and click on submit, this first screen will be completed, data will be saved in the database, and it will be going to the next screen. So as of now, we are not having any screens here. We can able to see it in the flow diagram. So this is the only screen. So if we have any other screen there, we can able to see it here as well. So if I just click on submit button, it has to reach to the end shape and work object ID will be created. So my question here is, we have created only these things. We have created only properties. We have not created anything like this buttons. So cancel, save, submit button. So this is something seems to be OOTB. And if you scroll down, we are seeing something, some other section, and the right side also we are seeing some details, what we have not actually created. So PRPC will be creating everything like for us. So this buttons is also part of OOTB, and this information is also part of OOTB, and this right side is also part of OOTB. So whatever the sections we create, that has to be displayed here. If we just click on submit, it will be displaying in the next section what we are creating. So all the time these buttons will be stable. We can able to see these buttons in all the screens, in wherever the work object we are. Suppose if I have 10 screens, I should be having 10 different work assignment shapes, and where in which of the assignment shape we are, we will be seeing the same screen. So the only this part will be changed. This will be changed as per our design. Everything will be there as it is. Why? Because these are included in the harness. The screen what we are seeing is included like just a section. So harness meaning it is a user interface which will be applied across whole application. We'll discuss about harness in the coming classes. So did you get this doubt? Why are we getting these buttons? So this is as part of the OOTB, and because of this perform harness, we'll discuss about the harness later. You don't get confused. Why are we getting all this now? Okay. And whenever we are trying to create one work object ID by running the flow, we are seeing something like C269. So this is the work object ID, and this will be unique all the time. So if I'm trying to create another work object ID, so if I want to register for another person, I will be running the same flow and it will be incremented. So work object ID got increased. So usually this when any of the big organizations working with this PEGA, what they will be doing, what are all the work object ID they are creating that might be considered as an their unique ID. It might be either medical ID or the employee ID, anything, any kind of thing. May or may not, that's secondary. So it is not recommended to have C all the time. No? Why are we getting C, and what is this number 269 and 270? All the time it will be incremented by 1. But why it is started with 269? So these are the things we'll discuss.
Chandra,
Yes.
I don't understand this point, like C269 and 70.
Yeah,
So
that is the one I want to discuss.
whenever we are running the same processes working on it, right? So why the two IDs are created separately?
No, this is for the registration. I can able to use this registration page for one customer, and I will be using the same registration for the second customer and for the third customer. Okay, suppose just compare in comparison with our laptops, I can able to sell multiple laptops from my Chroma store. Okay, for all the laptops purchasing, I will not be getting the same bill, no, same transaction ID will not be.
Okay,
So
it will be automatically, the transaction ID it automatically generated for each and every click of submit, each and every click of run. Okay.
Yeah. For how many times we run this flow, one unique work object ID has to be coming. That is the thing I'm trying to explain. And what I want to discuss here is why are we getting this particular number here? So that is the point I want to discuss now. So to answer your question, it will be creating one new new work object ID all the time whenever we're running the flow. Okay.
Then it occupies memory, right? So unnecessary memory.
If it is necessary, in production. In production, if it is necessary only, usually people will be creating. Just compare this with our Chroma laptop. So if they are getting business only, they will be creating the work object IDs. No, so in order to just think of this database memory, they will not lose the laptop business. Okay, if they're getting business only, they will be running this flow and it will be generating money for them.
Okay.
Got it, no?
Yeah, got it.
So you,
For example, some of the cases for registration page, we will do all the operation, first name, last name filling, and for some of the inquiries, we will click it and leave it, right? So that cases, it will occupy in the spaces,
mm,
right?
yeah. So this is for our testing purpose only. As in developers, we have to develop and we will be just testing, we'll be creating and we'll be closing. This is just for the thing. But in the real time, this will not be happening in this way. So the how many number of transactions they are getting, those much of business they will be getting, no, usually.
Okay.
And yeah, for the testing and the development purpose, we have to create n number of work objects. Else we cannot able to test each and every scenario.
Okay.
So there will be thousands of work object IDs created in one development cycle. So you just don't think that 269 is the big number. There will be thousands also created for the 3 months of testing phase. I mean development phase or the parallel testing. People also will be generating the work object IDs to see the output whether it is working fine or not. No?
Okay.
So this is completely. I mean this is a very casual thing in PEGA, creating of more number of work object IDs.
Okay.
So what I was, yeah, we were discussing about this work object ID, no? So why we are getting this work object ID and with this number? So that is the question. And as I was discussing, this particular website will be used by the users. So users will not be having this development knowledge. So they will not be given access to this designer studio. So we are the developers. So if we want to run this flow here, okay. So if you want to run this flow, what we will be doing, we will be going to the flow rule and we will be clicking on this and we will be running it from here. So if real users might be will not be having that much of technical knowledge. So they will be just having the application knowledge. So they if they cannot, they should be given some other extra feature for that. So let me tell you what is that. So if they just want to create one transaction ID for purchasing the laptop, they are just a store members. They will not be having complete technical knowledge. So in order to make this feature feasible for them, we should be having this flow created in another way. So till now we have seen how to run the flow. No, open the flow rule and click on actions, and there will be one easy option, and this will be useful for the real users. So go to the application and click on definition. Okay, and there will be something like cases and data. If we just click on this, here it will be asking for the flow name and the prefix ID what you want to give and in which class it is there. So I want to run this flow for generating the work object IDs. I'm just copying it here and pasting it. So this is my flow name and work object ID. What you want to put the work object ID? By default, we are getting C dash. From where are we getting this C dash? I'll explain this later. And we are working in this organization like CHG, and what are all the work object IDs I'm creating now, it has to be done with, sorry, it has to be coming with the prefix ID like CHG. If this is my business requirement, we will be putting it here like CHG hyphen, okay, hyphen or the thing whatever we are giving it here, that will be coming. And this particular flow is in which class? That is the question it is asking. So this is in this framework work class. Mark this checkbox and now just click on save. So we are trying to call this main flow rule across the application level. So this is already we know. Just click on definition, go to the cases and data. Here I'm just adding this flow details. So now I'm closing this. You need not close, just now if we want to run this flow, we can able to do it as a developer. But the real users, what they will be doing, they will be just clicking this create option, and on mouse over of this new, they're trying to create one work object ID with this flow. Okay, so they want to create one new work object ID, they'll be mouse over on this flow and they'll be just clicking on this one. They'll be getting this screen. Okay, real users will be given access to this part only. They will not be having the left app explorer. They will not be giving they cannot able to find this right side thing also. They will be just given this access of this part only. And if they want to create the work object, what they will be doing, they will be just clicking on create and new, and again this one. So here work object ID is got created with this chg1, and I'm trying to create the second one. It will be coming with chg2. Okay, so likewise we can able to change the work object ID prefix. And if PRPC is observing anything like new work object ID, chg is the new work object ID we are creating, so it will be having value incremented by starting with 1. So if this particular prefix ID is already existing, it will be incrementing from there. So that's why we are getting here 2. Why? Because chg is already there in the system. If I'm trying to create like 3, we'll be getting work object like chg3. So got my point? So in interviews also they will be asking you how to change the work object ID prefix. So you can able to say this one, and there will be another approach also that is more technical, and usually people, interviewers will be expecting that kind of answer, the second approach what we'll be discussing in our coming classes. Okay, so you can able to say this as well. Even in this definition, application rule form, we call this as an application rule, no? So in this application rule form, we can able to set the work object ID prefix here. So if we change this, even there it will be changed. Suppose if I'm trying to give anything new, work object ID prefix will be this one, and ID has to generated from the number 1. Why? Because this seems to be new work object ID prefix. Okay, I'm just discarding by clicking on refresh. So you got the point now how to change the work object ID and how to give the prefix. And yesterday we were discussing a creation of these properties, no? Usually if you want to create multiple properties on any class, whatever the approach we have done is not the correct one. So it is the correct one, it is also the correct one, but that seems to be much time taking. So usually what people will be doing is, if you want to create this 7 properties, it will be taking almost like 7 minutes, let us say, in the approach what we have followed yesterday. And now I'll show you the another approach. With that, it will be taking less than a minute. So these are all the properties I want to create it on the framework work class. So just right click and click on this one, view in data designer. And if you are working in a project where they are using version number 7, so this is version number 8. In 8 version 8.1, 2 or 3, there will not be major changes. Whatever the thing we are discussing, it will be as it is mostly. And if you are working in a version number 7, then you will be finding here like create properties. So this option will not be there. View in data designer option will not be there. Okay, so just click on this. So here we can able to add multiple properties. So we have to create all these properties. So let me create all the things again. I'll show you how fast it will be. So I want to create first name property. So first name is already there. It will be throwing duplicate. I'm giving something like new. So I want to put this as a text box only. I need not change. So this is just a label in comparison with our yesterday's discussion. And if we just tab out, ID will be automatically coming. And this applies to this class. This is the context. And this will be the text. Text meaning text input. And let me create the second one. Last name underscore new. And this is also text. And click on add field. Gender. So gender here should be drop downs. That's what we have discussed. So even for the drop downs or the text boxes, so sorry, it's already duplicated. I'm deleting it. So for the drop downs or the text boxes, there will be one option like pick list. So for either of those, you have to select the same option only. Suppose if you want to put drop downs. So yesterday we have seen putting drop downs. Now let me show you how to put radio buttons. So for both of the things, if you are following this data designer approach, you have to select the pick list only. select the pick list, and by default it is showing drop down. I want to add it like a radio button. Then click on this gear icon, settings icon, and here we can able to make the change. I'm trying to select it like radio button, and here I'm selecting the list values. So now submit. Automatically that property will be created. I want to give like age new. So age I want to put the integer values. I want to put date of birth now. Date of birth should be date. So usually this will be the approach what we will be following usually. This will be the fastest one. Mail ID new. Mail ID, there will be something like email here. So we can able to mark the text box and we can able to put the validations also. And if you're directly selecting email here, I'll show you the advantage. And for phone also, there will be one OOTP control like phone. Just to select this. And if you want to just put a label like expected salary in some situations, in some business scenarios, you can able to select the currency. And if you want to put a checkbox like do you have any coupon code like that? So if you have any those kind of label like checkbox, we have to go for boolean. Okay, going forward we will be using this. So right now I'm trying to select phone here. Now we are done. So let me save this. All the properties will be created in very less time. You can able to see it here also. So just refresh. See, these are all the properties which are created in very less time. So I recommend you to follow this approach. So if it is one or two properties, that's okay. And if you are creating many properties, this will be very less time taking. Now if you want to include this into our section, the same process. So let us redesign this now. So this is our existing section now. So in our existing section, we have given all the properties which were created yesterday. So now I'm trying to delete all this now. So select this dynamic layout or click on delete button. Everything will be gone. And now let me put everything. So first name, last name, date of birth, date of birth new, age new, okay. So now let me make this 2 by 2 or 3 by 3, whatever you want, you can able to do that. So change this to inline double, submit. Now everything will be changed to 2 by 2 here. So now if we want to if we just save this, work object ID will be created and there will be seeing something like first name underscore new. So this is just what we have created for the development purpose. For the user interface, this will not be the correct way. So for that, just double click, and by default, this is the property in what we have created. No? So this particular control text control is given with this property. That is what we have done. By default, whatever the property value we are giving, that is being displayed in the display purpose. So if I want to give something other than that, you just uncheck this checkbox and we can able to give whatever the thing you want. Okay, likewise you can able to do it for everything, whatever the thing you want, you can able to do that. Now if we want to run the work object, we'll follow this approach from here on. we can able to see all these things designed very well. So here it should be date only, and it should be integers only. It should not accept strings. That's what it's happening. And mobile number, it should not accept, sorry, it should be accepting only numbers, and email as well. So email, it is not of correct format. That is what it is telling. So we have not given any kind of validations, no, but PRPC has throwing some errors if we just tab out. Why? Because when we're trying to create the properties from the data designer, we have selected email directly, the control type as email. We have not selected text box. Okay, so that's the advantage. And if you want to change this radio button style also, we can able to do that. So this is there will be one radio button styles for that. People started using that in the real times. I want to show it to you now. So in order to open the properties, I mean, in order to open the characteristics of this dynamic layout, we have selected that and clicked on this gear icon. No? The same thing with the control. Here we want to change the style of these radio buttons. So just to select this and click on gear icon, or directly double click on the particular control. Then we will be getting all the control related things. So here this is the property name, this is the display name, and the visibility. We'll discuss all this in the coming classes. And we are bothering about the presentation should be of different format. So for radio buttons, there will be one OOTB presentation. Go to the presentation tab for that, and here orientation, it is showing something like vertical and horizontal. By default there is vertical, so presentation tab is completely for the styling only. So this is for the vertical. So vertical meaning it is showing one above the other. If I just select horizontal, it should be coming one and male and female side by side. And if you want to change the style of that, there this is the control. So this is the control, and it is asking us to change the format of here. So by default it is standard, and click on other. And if you just click on down arrow, we will be having something like segmented. So standard is the one what we are seeing now, and if we just select segmented, now let me show you how it will be changed. So this is how it can be changed. Oh, let me save this, and we can able to see the output as well. So instead of we creating the new work object ID, we can open the same and click on refresh. We can able to see the changes what we have done. So this is how it will be looking. So by default there is no selection happened, and if you want to select male, we can able to do that. If you want to select female, we can able to do this. So this is the one of the style what most of the business is asking these days for radio buttons. So that's what I wanted to include now. And there will be cases where we should not be having any of the values selected by default. So by default either drop down or radio buttons, not the radio buttons. By default drop down values will be having one predefined one first value is selected. Let me show you. So in yesterday's class, the gender what we have created is of drop down, if you remember. So I'm using the previous control, the world control, world property. Okay, so I'm just saving this. I'm refreshing it here. So if we refresh, wherever we use the drop down values, by default the starting value what we have given in the local list that will be coming. So which is not recommended all the time. Okay, so wherever we go for radio buttons or the drop downs, we go for placeholder. So by default I want to have the value like select or please select your gender. What are the thing we want to put, that has to be done. The first value should not be selected by default. So if the customer is directly clicking on submit button, then the gender will be like male, which may or may not be correct. So for that, if you want to make any changes to this control, just double click, and there will be something like include placeholder. Okay, so just click on this checkbox, and we can able to give whatever the value you want. If I just give like this, now save. So whatever the value we are putting it in the placeholder, that is just for the display purpose. So that will not be carried for the processing. Actions, go to actions and refresh. entire work object will be refreshed. So here we are getting some value which is not selected by default. Okay, now customer can able to select whatever the value he want. Similarly, you can able to put it for the radio buttons also. So clear so far? I think this is the easiest approach of creating the properties. So any doubts so far? Uma and
No, I'm fine.
both of you clear now?
Mm.
So I'm deleting this control now. It's not necessary here. And let me show you how to upload the image also. So for all these rules we have created separate for all this we have created separate rules. No, for the properties we have created property rules, and for the division and for the section we have created this rule. We have created one rule for flow action and one rule for flow. So, and if you want to include the images, so this is the thumb process. You have to follow it blindly. If you want to include the images, first thing what we have to do is we have to create one binary file. Okay, so for images we have to create one binary. So binary is the name of the rule, so that will be under activity technical. Sorry, that will be under technical rule category. So right click, create. So this data model we used for the properties, and this user interface for the sections, and this process for the flow and flow action, and there will be something like technical category. So if you mouse over on that, there will be something called binary. So just click on that binary. So it will be asking for the rule creation name. I'm giving something like chg banner image. We have to give one directory. Directory is something like one folder only. So PRPC will be having many images, no? So this is one of the image, this is one image. These are all the images only. These are all the OOTB images. So PRPC will be having one big library of images. So in that library, if we want, we need not directly go and search for the each and every image. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to create one folder kind of thing. Directory meaning which will be kind of an one folder specific to our project. Whatever the thing you want, you can able to put it. And what is the image you're trying to upload. So by default, whatever we have to first identify the extension. It might be either PNG or JPEG or GIF, whatever the thing we want to upload. We have to give the extension name here. I want to upload one PNG image, so give it like this, and I want to use it in my framework context. So before that, you have to download one image, or if you have any image ready, make sure the extension of that image and what you are giving here should be same. Okay, so I have downloaded one image. Let me show you that first. So this is the image I have downloaded, and this is of PNG format. So I want to upload this image, and this is of PNG. Let me do that here. I have changed the context and click on create and open. So here we are trying to create one binary rule, that is important. Here we have to upload the image. So if we just click on upload, we have to select the file. So this is the file. Just save this and open. So the format is same, PNG. Now upload. Upload. So it is asking please save image for the preview. So we have to save this rule to see the preview of that image. So now click on save. So this is the image what I have uploaded just now. Okay, so once we upload the image into our PRPC library, that will be stored for permanent. And if you are trying to delete the same image from your computer like hard disk, no problem. Why? Because we have already uploaded the image into our PRPC library, and you can able to delete it from your local laptop also. So that is the advantage here. So we have already saved this. So one binary rule has been created. So go to App Explorer and refresh to check for that. So I need not refresh whole Explorer. I just want to refresh this class alone. So right click, refresh this class. So one technical category has to be created. So refresh it from here. One second, why it is not showing? Okay, it's not showing. We'll look into that later. So we have created one binary file. Once the binary file is created, the next thing, if you want to include it here, what we have to do is we have to drag and drop one control called icon. So before that, let me take one additional dynamic layout. If I want to show this image at the top, I'm taking one additional dynamic layout. So dynamic layout is nothing but small segregated parts. That's it. So from the basic, we can able to drag the controls. So for the image, I want to take icon here and put it in the first thing. Okay, so one image thing has been appearing, and this image has to be given with the binary file what we have created just now. So double click on that, and icon source, I want to give it as an image. So select the image here, and now we have to give the image name what we have just used for uploading. So if you don't remember, just click on this gear icon. We will be getting access to the library, and the name directory name what we have given, we can able to directly search with that. So this is the image I have uploaded. Just select and click on OK and click on submit. So we can able to see this image uploaded here. Okay, now if we just save this, it should be reflecting it in our output. So just refresh, actions refresh. So here we can able to see this output. Okay, so you got how to upload the images now. Any doubts? So likewise, we can able to upload n number of images whatever we want. So whatever the directory we have just created, we can able to use the directory for the multiple images to be uploaded. So we need not create the new directory all the time. We can able to reuse the directory. So usually for one project, they will be having one directory, and in the directory, they will be having multiple images. So once the work object ID is created, we will be entering these details. No? I'm trying to enter some details here. So I'm trying to enter some details here. So whatever the details we are entering as part of this work object ID has to be stored into database. That is the concept of concrete classes. So if I just click on submit button, as per the flow shape, it has to reach to the red color circle, that is end shape. So that is what it is showing here. It is saying something like thank you for the input, meaning work object ID has been completed. Work object has been resolved, completed. So this is also one of the screen what we have not created. This is also part of harness. We'll discuss this. There is much concept involved here. We'll discuss about this harness in the coming classes. So as part of this flow, first assignment has been completed. So it has to reach to the end shape. So whatever the data we are entering, that has to be for sure stored into database. Else we cannot able to retrieve the data. Okay, that's the purpose of, that's the concept of concrete classes. No? So how PRPC will be knowing this particular transaction details has to be stored in which table of the database. So in database, there will be many tables. Okay, in many tables, how PRPC will be knowing this particular work object ID, that is ch3-3, will be having some data like first name this one, last name this one. So whatever the data we are having as part of this work object ID has to be stored in which particular table. So that PRPC, how PRPC will be knowing that? Can someone tell me? So PRPC will be knowing the table name by just having this here. So if we right click on any class, not this class. So if you right click on this class, this particular class has to be given with one database table. So work object ID we have created for this class. So for this class has to be linked to one database table. So if we just click on definition and test connection, we can able to see this table name. So in database, what are the work object IDs we are creating on top of this has to be stored into this table. So that is how PRPC will be knowing. So there will be one map rule. So this particular table, sorry, this particular class has been mapped to this table. So there will be one mapping rule in the background. That mapping rule will be connecting this particular class and this table. So based on this mapping rule only, it can able to identify the corresponding table, and it will be storing all the work object IDs which are created into that table. Okay, now I'll show you how to open our database. So in order to open the database, so just go to my computer and go to the folder where you have created the PRPC edition. So by default, if you have it installed in the C drive, you will be having this one, PRPC personal edition. So just double click on that, and here there will be something like PGSQL. Okay, so this is SQL. So double click, and here you will be finding like PG admin 4. So again double click, and here you will be having like bin. Double click on that, and here we will be finding like PG admin 4. So this is our SQL environment. So if we just double click on that, we will be getting our database opened. I'll ping you this path. Even in the document, you can able to find it. So if we just double click, we will be getting one automatically configured database with our PRPC. So when we are installing our personal edition, this SQL will be automatically configured, and we can able to see all the data what we are creating there. So it takes some time, almost like 1 minute. So this is our database environment, PG admin 4, and by default we'll be getting this screen. And right side, sorry, at the left side there will be something called servers. So just expand that, and there will be one local host. So we are running our application on this local host now, so that's why our server will be local host. So just expand that again, and expand the databases, and you will be having only Postgres. You will not be having all other databases. You will be having only Postgres, and expand this Postgres. Expand the schemas, and based on this schema we can able to identify. So this particular class has been linked to one table which is in the data schema. So this is the data schema. So this is the data schema. Open the data, and here you will be finding like tables. So all our database tables we have to find it under this tables category. So if you scroll down, there will be many tables here. So you can able to see this now. So these are all OOTB tables. So when we are creating one application, PRPC will be creating many things in the background, what we have discussed earlier. So these are all the things that has to be created. So if we just give the application name as wrong, or if you're trying to create the new application, that will not be possible, deleting each and every rule all the time. So you have to be very cautious when creating the application. So these are all the tables that are created automatically, and just identify the table what you have just observed in the PRPC here. So click on the test connection. This is my table name. So just identify the table PC underscore PC underscore CHG. So this is my class. So this is my table name. So what are all the work object IDs I have created there that has to be included in this table? So that is my expectation. So just right click on the table and we'll be getting these many options, and view data. Click on view data and click on view all rows. So this is the completely automated feature given by this PG admin 4. But your real-time project might be connected to some other databases also. It is not thumb rule that we have to use this PG admin 4 only. For the personal edition, PRPC is using this PG admin 4, and in your real-time projects they might be using either Oracle, SQL or MongoDB, anything as per the business client requirement they might be using. So there, if you want to get all these records, you should be writing the queries manually. So depending upon the database environment. So if it is Oracle or SQL, you have to write the queries manually. If it is a PG admin 4, which will not be mostly used in the real time. So this is just configured for the personal edition. So here in this personal edition, this PG admin 4, this is automated, where we need not write a single query also. So in order to get the data, what we are trying to do, we are just going on this view data and click on view all rows or view first 100 rows. What are the thing you want to do, you can able to do that. If your real-time projects are using some other environments, you have to write this query manually. Mostly will not be working. Most of the people will not be given access to the database. This is not this is just an add-on. I'll tell you why they will not be giving access for this database in coming classes. So these are all the records what we are trying to get as part of this work object IDs. So we are seeing headings like PX something, PX. So these are all OOTB controls, sorry, OOTB properties, which we are not aware of actually. Okay, all the things are related to OOTB only. And here my expectation is, let me close this. So my expectation is, what are all the data that has to be created as part of this work object ID? So if I enter any details here, there is one table linked to this particular class, and there should be one record like CHG4. So CHG4 is a unique work object ID. That's what we are discussing. So there should be one record there with the unique work object with the unique name like CHG4, and after that there should be one column heading like first name and another column heading like last name. Likewise, what are all the properties we are trying to create? Those are to be created as the property column headings. Okay, so if there are considered as a column headings only, then I can able to create the use the table properly. So under first name, I will be giving what are the value I'm giving it here in this sec. And if I'm trying to create another work object ID, there one more record will be coming there like chg-5, and the first name what we are entering that time, that has to be stored into the same column as a new record. So this is my expectation. But PRPC also follows the same, but here we are not seeing anything like first name, last name, date of birth or age. So any of the headings are not visible here. Okay, if you observe everything seems to be PX, PY, PZ only. So there are no column headings like first name, last name, or the properties what we have just created. Okay, but how the linking will be happening? So what are the work object ID we are trying to create here? We have just created. Let me show you. Let us see whether that is there or not. chg-4, no? So there is something like this one, chg-3. Okay, so what are all the work object IDs we are creating that has been stored successfully only? So we are just identifying by just checking this column. So this is the work object ID we have created, and this is the one. So these are all the work object IDs we have created. And if we want to just check for the class, we can able to do that. So if we just stretch this particular column, we can able to see the class name. Okay, so all the things what we are seeing in the UI has been linked to some OOTB properties. So these are all the properties. For table, heading should be properties only. Our expectation is these properties we will be seeing there, but we are not seeing those properties. We'll discuss this why in tomorrow's class. So whatever the work object ID we are creating here that has been linked to one property called PYID. I'll show you. So this is the column. So PYID is the column in the table, in the work table, which is responsible for holding the work object IDs. Okay, got my point finally? And whatever the data we are entering, CHG4, sorry, 4 has not been completed. So whatever the data we are entering in CHG3, that has to be stored into the database now. So this is the CH3 column, and let me see whether that particular data is there or not. So whatever the data we enter there, it should be visible here. That is my expectation. But we are not seeing anything here. So we are not seeing the data what we have just given in this particular table. PRPC will be hiding that for the security reasons. I'll tell you why. And there will be something like PZPV stream. So if we just expand this, the name of the column will be PZPV stream. So the last column here will be PZPV stream. So the two important columns that you have to remember here will be PYID and PZPV stream. So these are important interview questions. So the importance of this PYID is what are the work object ID we are creating in the user interface that will be linked to one OOTB property called PYID. So if we create any work object ID like CHG4, you have to just check in the PYID column of that particular work class. Then it will be coming here, CHG3. And whatever the data we are entering in that particular work object, that will be stored into column called PZPV stream. Okay, so this is the PZPV stream column. So if we just double click on this, we can able to access the data. So I'm just copying it and pasting it somewhere. I'm pasting it here. So this is the data what we are seeing in PZPV stream. So is this user readable? So we cannot able to get any information out of here. So whatever the data I'm entering here, that is not visible. This is meant for the security purpose. We'll discuss this more tomorrow. So finally what I'm trying to say is you have to remember two column names as of now, that is PYID, which will be having the work object ID stored linked to that, and PZPV stream. So in PZPV stream, whatever the data we enter, that will be stored in one format called blob. So whatever the data we are seeing, that is not user readable format. So the format that we are seeing here is blob format. Blob meaning binary large object. Okay, so whatever the format we are seeing here is blob format. So in the blob format, data will be stored, and the purpose of PRPC storing this in the blob format is for the security. No one should able to access this. Whatever the data we are entering, that has to be secured. So that's why it will be storing in this blob. So the important points here is PYID, PZPV stream, and the blob format. So these three are important. Interviews they will be asking you. So in tomorrow's class, we'll discuss why it is having blob format and how to decode that. So decoding that you will not understand as of now. We'll discuss this after 50% of course is completed. We'll do that then, and we'll discuss more about few things tomorrow. Okay, any doubts so far?
No, sir.
So
No.
shall it go? So is this class interesting today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So no questions now. I'm winding off now.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, yes. Bye.